from above downward or below, or the above below upward, so that it is important to go through the medulla oblongata before going to the pons. So today I'm going to discuss about the pons. So here we can see the midbrain, pons and the medulla oblongata. So this pons is acting as a bridge between the midbrain and the medulla oblongata, and it is the middle part of the brainstem which connects the midbrain with the medulla oblongata. So it extends from the cranial end of the medulla oblongata in the pontomedullary junction to the cerebral peduncles of the midbrain. So it bridges the medulla oblongata with the midbrain, and ventrally it rests on clevus. Yesterday I discussed about the clevus. It is the bone that is formed by the fusion of the basi-occiput and the basi-sphenoid. So basi-occiput and the basi-sphenoid are the bones forming the base of the skull, and it's something like slanting within the cranial cavity and the middle cranial fossa and posterior cranial fossa. So clevus is the area where the brainstem is located and lies anterior to the cerebellum and about 2.5 centimeter in length. So this is the length in the ventral aspect in the middle. Okay, so this is the 2.5 centimeter in length. So this is the length of the pons from the medulla oblongata to the cross cerebri of the midbrain. So talking about the anterior surface. So this is the anterior surface of the, so it is convex, and in the median plane it shows a shallow longitudinal groove. So here we can see a groove in the middle, that is the basilar groove, which lodges the basilar artery. So this is the basilar groove, which is the prominent feature in the anterior surface of the pons. So this is the basilar groove, which is occupied by the basilar artery in normal condition. And it shows many transverse fibers that converge on each side to form the middle cerebellar peduncle. So middle cerebellar peduncle is the bundle of fibers which forms the connection between the pons and the cerebellum, and the pontocerebellar fiber, they form the middle cerebellar peduncles. So this is the middle cerebellar peduncles. Okay, so this is the basilar groove and is the prominent features in the ventral surface of the pons. So basilar artery, which is present in the basilar groove, is formed by the union of two vertebral arteries. So right and the left vertebral artery, they united together to form the basilar artery, and it is situated in the basilar groove in the ventral surface of the pons. So this basilar artery, it has different branches. So they are the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. So here we can see the anterior inferior cerebellar artery, the labyrinthine artery, the pontine artery or the pontine branches, superior cerebellar artery, and the posterior cerebral artery. We discuss in details about the union of the vertebral artery and the formation of the basilar artery and the formation of circle of Willis during the class of blood supply to the brain. For now, you have to know the basilar artery is there in the basilar groove, which is formed by the union of right and the left vertebral artery. They united together in the basilar groove, and it gives different branches. Labyrinthine branches to the air, pontine branch to the pons, superior cerebellar artery to supply the cerebellum, posterior cerebral artery to supply the cerebrum, and is one of the important component of circle of Willis. So this is the basilar artery and is present in the basilar groove. So do you have any queries till now? Dipani, are you there? Dipani?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, pons is a bit easy. Ventral surface and dorsal surface, it has less features, so that it will be easy to remember. Okay, so Archana, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, are you getting what I'm talking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so all the important features in the ventral surface of the pons here is the trigeminal nerve. So this is the trigeminal nerve, which is another important features in the ventral surface of the pons. So it emerges on the anterolateral surface on each side of the ventral, each side of the basilar groove. The nerve has two roots. So they are the motor root and the sensory root. So the trigeminal nerve is the mixed nerve. So it has motor root as well as the sensory root. So the small one is the motor root, whereas the larger one is the sensory root. And another feature is the horizontal sulcus between the pons and the medulla. Yesterday I discussed about the pontomedullary junction that is there, and there is emergence of the abducens nerve, 6th cranial nerve, facial nerve, 7th cranial nerve, and the vestibulocochlear nerve or the 8th cranial nerve. So pontomedullary junction is the junction between the pons and the medulla, and there is emergence of 6th, 7th and 8th cranial nerve. Here we can see 6th, 7th and 8th cranial nerve, which are emerging in the pontomedullary junction or the horizontal sulcus, and this one is the trigeminal nerve. The peripheral end of the horizontal sulcus are known as cerebellopontine angle because it is the junction between the cerebellum and the pons, which is the meeting place of medulla oblongata, pons and the cerebellum. So if there is any lesion or slowly growing tumor at this angle, it can compress the cranial nerve 7 and 8, leading to the progressive deafness, vertigo, cerebellar dysfunction and ipsilateral facial palsy. These symptoms are related with the size of the lesion. If the size of the tumor or the lesion is small, it can only compress the one cranial nerve. If it is large, it can compress two or other cranial nerves. So that the symptoms are related to the effect or the pressure on the which cranial nerve. So that the symptoms are related according to the size of the tumor. So laterally, the surface is continuous with the middle cerebellar peduncle. So this one is the middle cerebellar peduncle. And talking about the posterior surface. So first of all, quick review of the anterior surface. So this one is the anterior surface. Prominent feature here we can see is the basilar groove, which is occupied by the basilar artery, and it gives the different branches. And this is the trigeminal nerve, is the mixed nerve having the motor and the sensory root. So motor is the smaller one and sensory is the larger one. And this is the horizontal sulcus or the pontomedullary junction, which is occupied by or where there is emergence of the 6th, 7th and the 8th cranial nerve. And this one is the pontomedullary junction, is the junction between the pons, medulla oblongata and the cerebellum. If there is any tumorous lesion, it can compress these cranial nerves, leading to the different symptoms. Okay, so that is all about the anterior surface or the ventral surface of the pons. So move on to the posterior surface. Yesterday we discussed about the floor of the fourth ventricle. So the floor of the fourth ventricle in the lower aspect is formed by the posterior aspect of the medulla oblongata, the open part, and the above part is formed by the posterior surface of the pons. So just above the stria medullaris, this area is formed by the posterior surface of the pons. So this one is the posterior surface of the pons. So hidden by the cerebellum and forms the upper half of the floor of the fourth ventricle. So in total, this is the floor of the fourth ventricle. This part is formed by the posterior surface of the pons, and limited superolaterally by the superior cerebellar peduncle and inferolaterally by the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So they are the bunch of the nerve fibers, and divided into symmetrical halves by the median sulcus. So here we can see the median sulcus, which divides into each equal lateral halves. lateral to the sulcus, elongated elevation, the median eminence is there, which is bounded laterally by the sulcus limitans. So this is the median eminence, and this one is the sulcus limitans, the depression on the lateral aspect. The inferior end of the medial eminence is slightly expanded to form the facial colliculus. So this is the very important or the prominent features in the posterior surface of the pons. So the facial colliculus, which is produced by the root of the facial nerve or genu of the facial nerve winding around the nucleus of the abducent nerve. So facial nerve is the 7th cranial nerve, whereas the abducent nerve is the 6th cranial nerve. So facial nerve, during its course, it winds around the abducent nerve nuclei to form the facial colliculus. And the lateral to the sulcus limitans is the vestibular area produced by the underlying vestibular nuclei. So here we can see very important feature, that is the facial colliculus. So facial colliculus is the elevation that is produced by winding of the facial nerve to the abducent nerve nuclei, and is the very important and prominent feature in the posterior surface of the pons. And this is the sulcus limitans, and lateral to it is the vestibular area, similar to it here. Okay, so this is the vestibular area produced by the vestibular nerve nuclei. That is all about the external feature. Once again, the posterior surface, median sulcus, median eminence, lower part of the median eminence is bulge that is formed by the facial colliculus, sulcus limitans, and this one is the vestibular area. So this is the posterior surface of the pons. So posterior surface of the pons and the posterior surface of the medulla oblongata, in total it forms the floor of the fourth ventricle. Do we have any queries till now? Ashima, are you there? Ashima? Ria? Ria, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Stuti, are you there? Stuti? Stuti, are you there? Do you have any queries? Stuti? Ram Kumar, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So move on to the internal features of the pons. Okay. So pons is commonly divided into two parts, that is the ventral part or the basilar part and the dorsal part or the tegmental part. So ventral or the basilar part represents the cranial continuation of the pyramid. So pyramid means the prominent features in the medulla oblongata, which is formed by the corticospinal tract. So that is forming the ventral part of the pons, and the dorsal or the tegmental part that represents the cranial continuation of the medulla oblongata in total. So the junction between the basilar part and the tegmental part roughly corresponds to the plane just ventral to the medial lemniscus. Yesterday I discussed about the medial lemniscus and the decussation of the trapezoid body. Okay, so that is the junction between the basilar part and the tegmental part. So basilar part is the ventral one or the anterior one, the dorsal one is the tegmental part. So this is the trapezoid body and this is the medial lemniscus. So in front of it is the ventral part or the basilar part, behind to it is the dorsal part or the tegmental part. So it has the uniform structure throughout its length. The basilar part is uniform and it occupied by the numerous transverse and the longitudinal fibers. So these are the transverse fibers which are forming the pontocerebellar fibers, and the longitudinal fibers, the nuclei are there. Okay, so it is occupied by the numerous transverse and the longitudinal fibers, and numerous scattered group of the neuronal mass is known as the pontine nuclei. So pontine nuclei are the prominent feature in the basilar part. So they are the pontine nuclei, and these are the transverse fibers which are forming the middle cerebellar peduncle or the pontocerebellar fibers. Okay, so that is the basilar part transverse fibers, they include the pontocerebellar fiber that arise from the pontine nuclei, which passes laterally to form the middle cerebellar peduncle. So they are originating here in the pons, and they are going like this on the lateral aspect to form the middle cerebellar peduncle. And longitudinal fibers include the corticospinal fibers, corticopontine fiber, and corticonuclear or the corticobulbar fiber. So they are coming from the cerebral cortex to the nuclei to the pons or the important area in the pons. So corticospinal fibers, they are the longitudinal fibers. Corticopontine fibers terminate in the pontine nuclei at various levels. Corticonuclear fibers connect the cerebral cortex with the contralateral cranial and some ipsilateral motor nuclei. So contralateral means opposite side, right to the left, left to the right, and ipsilateral means the same side. Okay, so the corticonuclear fiber can go to the opposite side and it can continue down to the same side. Move on to the tegmental part or the posterior one. The structure of the tegmental part varies in the two levels. Okay, so that is the upper one and the lower one. That is why the tegmental part or the structure of the pons may be studied at two levels. They are the transverse section through the caudal part at the level of the facial colliculus, very important, and the transverse section through the cranial part above the facial colliculus. So the demarcation is the facial colliculus. So here we can see the facial nerve nuclei. As we know, the facial nerve is also the mixed nerve. Okay, it has the motor and sensory. So the motor nucleus of the facial nerve is this. And here we can see the abducens nerve nuclei, the 6th cranial nerve nuclei. So during the course of facial nerve, the motor nerve, so facial nerve, it starts from the motor nucleus of the facial nerve here. It goes medially and it winds around the abducens nerve nuclei like this. And it produces the bulging here on the posterior surface of the pons. So that bulging is known as facial colliculus. Okay. So the transverse section at the level of the facial colliculus is the medial lemniscus, efferent fibers of the nucleus gracilis and cuneatus. Yesterday we discussed about it. Medial lemniscus, this is the medial lemniscus. So situated in the most anterior part of the tegmentum with the long axis running transversely. So this is the medial lemniscus. It is formed by the fibers which are coming from the nucleus gracilis and the nucleus cuneatus. It comes and decussate and goes to the opposite side. It forms the medial lemniscus. So it is the prominent feature in the tegmental part at the level of the facial colliculus. And superior salivatory nucleus lies lateral to the facial nucleus. So this is the facial nucleus. Somewhere here in the lateral aspect there will be the superior salivatory nucleus and is responsible for a spatial visceral afferent column or the taste sensation. So superior salivatory nucleus on the lateral aspect of the motor nucleus of the facial nerve. So the facial nucleus lies posterior to the lateral part of the medial lemniscus. So this is the medial lemniscus and this one is the facial nerve. So it is in the slightly on the posterior part of the medial lemniscus. So the fibers of the facial nerve winds around the nucleus of the abducens nerve, forming the genu of the facial nerve. So this winding of the facial nerve produces the facial colliculus on the floor of the fourth ventricle. So in the interior of the pons, this is very, very important for MCQ, SAQ as well as gross. And one important terminology is there, that is the neurobiotaxis. What is the meaning of it? Is the migration of the motor nucleus of the facial nerve towards the sensory nucleus, which establishes the quicker reflex response. That is why it goes and winds around the abducens nerve nuclei because of the process of neurobiotaxis. So that is the migration of the motor nucleus of the facial nerve towards the sensory nucleus to provide the quicker reflex response. So here we can see the motor nerve and sensory nerve is over here and it goes like this. It winds around the abducens nerve provide the facial nerve. It forms the facial nerve like this. So this bulging here is the facial colliculus and is the important feature in the posterior surface of the bone. So here we can see the cavity of the fourth ventricle. This one is the bulging, which is on the on each side of the central sulcus on the posterior aspect in the median eminence. So that is the facial colliculus. So medial longitudinal fasciculus situated beneath the floor of the fourth ventricle. So medial longitudinal fasciculus is this. So this is the floor of the fourth ventricle and this one is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. So it is the main pathway that connects the vestibular nuclei with the nuclei controlling the extraocular muscles. So vestibular nuclei are here. Okay, it connects with this and it controls the extraocular muscles of the eye and the muscles controlling the head and neck region. So it is in relation to the third, fourth and sixth nerve nuclei and the spinal part of the accessory nerve. So medial longitudinal fasciculus, which is situated in the floor of the fourth ventricle. Medial vestibular nuclei is situated lateral to the abducens nucleus, deep to the vestibular area in the fourth ventricle. We discussed yesterday also the vestibular area is present on the lateral aspect of the floor of the fourth ventricle, and there are vestibular nuclei, medial, lateral, superior and the inferior. So they are situated on the lateral aspect of the abducens nerve nuclei. So here we can see the abducens nerve nuclei. Lateral to this is the vestibular nuclei. Final nucleus of the trigeminal nerve and its tract lie on the anteromedial aspect. So spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, fifth cranial nerve is here. Okay, so anterolaterally it is there, anteromedially, sorry, and anterior and the posterior cochlear nuclei to form the vestibulocochlear nerve lie dorsal and ventral to the inferior cerebellar peduncle, which receives the fibers from the cochlear nerve. Okay. So here we can see the cochlear nerve. It is somewhere here. Okay. And cochlear nuclei gives efferent fibers which cross the midline, these fibers, and then they form the trapezoid body. So this is the trapezoid body which are forming by the crossing of the cochlear nerve fibers. So this is the trapezoid body, which are the crossing, trapezoid body are the crossing of the fibers which are coming from the cochlear nerve nuclei. This is the important pathway, that is the auditory pathway to receive the sound. Okay, so this is the trapezoid body and the fibers of the cochlear nerve nuclei. So they are the features which are present at the level of the facial colliculus. Once again, here we can see the trapezoid body, the fibers of the cochlear nerve nuclei. This is the motor nuclei of the facial nerve, and this is the genu which surrounds the abducens nerve nuclei to provide the facial colliculus, and this is the spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve, fifth cranial nerve, and this is the vestibular nuclei. Okay, so this is the vestibular nuclei and this is the medial lemniscus. They are the fibers from the nucleus gracilis and the nucleus cuneatus. So they are the main features at the level of the facial colliculus. So after that, we move on to the transverse section through the cranial part just above the facial colliculus. Do we have any queries? Anybody? Shreya? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Pema? Are you getting, Pema?
Yes, ma'am.
Sushant?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So move on to the level just above the facial colliculus. Think in such a way that And the floor of the fourth ventricle, the facial colliculus is most bulging area. The trigeminal nerve is situated beneath the lateral part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. So motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve is this. And this one is the sensory nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. So trigeminal nerve has motor nucleus, sensory nucleus, and the mesencephalic nucleus and principal sensory nucleus. So they are the nucleus of the trigeminal nerve to form the fifth cranial nerve. Okay, so motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve is situated beneath the lateral part of the floor of the fourth ventricle here, this one. And the principal sensory nucleus of the trigeminal nerve is lateral to the motor nucleus. So lateral to it is the sensory. So motor medially and sensory laterally. The mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve is located just medial to the ventral spinocerebellar tract, somewhere here. The mesencephalic nucleus. You can see in the section of midbrain in the next class. So that is the mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. It is situated somewhere here. Ventral to the spinocerebellar tract. The main features of the level just above the facial colliculus. So what are the nucleus of the trigeminal nerve? Motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, which is responsible to the branchiomotor. Branchiomotor means the muscles which are derived from the pharyngeal arches or the branchial arches to supply the muscles derived from the first pharyngeal arch. They are the muscles of mastication and tensor tympani muscles. And the principal sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve is there, which is responsible for general afferent sensation. General sensation from the head trigeminal territory. So the tactile and the pressure sensation of the trigeminal area means head and neck area. Spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, which carry the pain and thermal sensation from the trigeminal area. And the mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve receives the proprioceptive and stretch receptors or the fibers from the muscles of mastication and the temporomandibular joint. So they are the nuclei and the function of the trigeminal nerve. It is also important for exam purpose. So motor nucleus, principal sensory nucleus, spinal nucleus, and mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. So we also discussed during the cranial nerve class the trigeminal nerve. Okay, so they are the nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. So that is all about the features which are present in the just above the facial colliculus level. That is the main are the nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. So motor medially, sensory, mesencephalic somewhere here. Okay. And the spinal nucleus, which also extends up to the spinal cord. That is all about the internal features of the bones. Do you have any queries? Anybody? Any queries? Niriksha, are you there? Niriksha? Nisha, are you there? Jinnat, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Bhanu Pratap, are you there? So move on to the clinical aspect of the pons and the medulla oblongata. So lateral medullary syndrome, medial medullary syndrome are very important clinical features and is also important for your exam purpose. Okay, so lateral medullary syndrome is related with the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. We discussed right now they are the branches from the basilar artery or it's also known as Wallenberg syndrome. Okay, so the lateral part of the medulla oblongata is supplied by the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. So the thrombosis of this artery produces following symptoms. Okay, so that is the branch is from vertebral artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery. Okay, so if this artery is blocked, or if there is any injury to this artery, it can cause lack of arterial supply to the lateral part of the medulla oblongata. Okay, so this area won't get the arterial supply. So this area will be in lack of oxygen supply, and it can cause dysphagia and dysarthria due to the paralysis of muscles of soft palate, pharynx and larynx. It is because of the destruction of the nucleus ambiguus. Okay, so yesterday I discussed about the nucleus ambiguus, which is here. So because of the lack of arterial supply, this nucleus will be damaged. And loss of pain and temperature on the ipsilateral side of the face, on the same side of the face, because of the nucleus and spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve we discussed right now. Contralateral loss of sensation of the pain and temperature because of the lack of oxygen supply to the spinal lemniscus, spinothalamic tract will be impaired. And vertigo, nausea, vomiting can be occur because of the damage to the vestibular nuclei. That is the symptoms of lateral medullary syndrome. And medial medullary syndrome, so lack of arterial supply in the medial aspect. So medial part of the medulla is supplied by the vertebral artery. Thrombosis of the medullary branch of the vertebral artery produces following symptoms. So contralateral hemiparesis or hemiplegia on the opposite side, depending on the severity, it is because of the lack of arterial supply to the pyramidal tract, corticospinal tract. Contralateral impaired sensation of the position and movement and the tactile discrimination, medial lemniscus. Ipsilateral paralysis of the tongue muscles with the deviation of the paralyzed side when the tongue is protruded because of the effect on the hypoglossal nerve. And if there is any tumor or the lesion in the cerebellopontine angle, it can compress the cranial nerve 8-7 in the middle cerebellar peduncle, can cause progressive deafness, vertigo, cerebellar dysfunction, and ipsilateral facial palsy. So it can cause the symptoms according to the compression of the nerve. So that is all about the clinical aspect of the pons and the medulla oblongata. So these features normally we can see in the head injury cases, okay, and sometimes in the cerebral hemorrhage cases, road traffic accident cases, okay. So we can see the numbness, we can see the paralysis of the opposite side, paralysis of the same side of the body or the head and neck region, okay. It is because of the lack of the arterial supply to the particular area. According to that, the symptoms will occur. That is all about the pons. Do you have any queries? Anybody? Ayush, are you there? Ayush? Archana? Are you there? So do you have any queries? Anybody? So that is the homework for today's class. So draw the well-labeled diagram of pons. Yesterday the medulla oblongata, today is the pons, and showing the external features, and draw the transverse section of the pons at the level of the facial colliculus with the labeling, okay. So that is important for your exam purpose. And the clinical aspect, the lateral medullary syndrome, medial medullary syndrome, and the importance of cerebellopontine angle is also important for exam also. Do you have any queries? Anybody? Okay, if not, have a good day.